When you know that you are queer, but your favorite drink is beer, that's gayish. You can bottom without stopping, but you can't stand going shopping, that's gayish. Oh, gayish, you're probably gayish. Well, life's just too short for narrow stereotypes, so it's gayish. We're also gayish. It's Gayish with Mike and Kyle.
Hello, everyone in the podcast universe. This is Gayish,
the podcast where NDA stands for numerous dicks administered.
I'm assuming that was funny, and you legit froze on me while you were saying it, like at the moment that needed to land.
It was decent. You can do a light chuckle in response.
Okay.
That was perfect.
I'm Mike Johnson.
I'm Kyle Getz.
We're here to bridge the gap between sexuality and actuality. And today, I'm in Atlanta, Georgia, with tenuous internet at best. So this is going to be amazing.
This is going to be fun. We have guests on to talk about trans athletes.
We're going to talk about trans athletes and all of the bullshittery that is happening in that world. Well, at least in the United States.
Yeah, like me on a Saturday night, it's pretty loaded.
Speaking of Saturday night, we'll get into that later.
Oh,
yeah. But first, I don't know. Here's the news.
Shut your mouth hole. It's time for your ear holes. News. News the first, Kyle.
Yeah.
So 2 Texas judges refused to officiate same-sex weddings on religious grounds, and instead of being disciplined, they're walking away with nearly $1 million of taxpayer money in legal fees after a February 2026 Texas court ruled the state's Judicial Conduct Commission violated their religious rights.
No, but I thought that was the whole point, that you can't discriminate against people based on race or sex or sexual orientation.
I know. So Judge Diane Hansley and Judge Brian Keith Umphreys of Jack County both declined to marry same-sex couples, citing their faith. In February of 2026, a Texas district court ruled that the State Commission on Judicial Conduct violated Hensley's religious rights when it issued her a public warning back in 2019. The fee tab paid by the commission, which is the state, $630,000 to Hensley's team, $315,800 to Umphreys' team, plus $10,000 and $4,200 in damages. It was roughly $950,000. Almost
$1 million to them for being shitbags? I'm a shitbag for free.
Yeah. If you start getting that kind of money, Kyle, just for being you, I'm here for it.
Yeah. That's so shitty. I thought, is there another escalation path, like appeal path that we can go down?
Yes.
Okay.
And I mean, there's always more, but I think next would be to take it to the federal level, probably. So there was another judge that was added to it. It was a class action lawsuit that was for justices of the peace in Texas who have opted out of officiating same-sex weddings for religious reasons, of course. But they haven't reached a settlement yet. But that's a Texas district court. Ostensibly, it would have to go up to the Texas Supreme Court, which the same thing will happen there, I promise you. And then from there, it would go to the Circuit Court of Appeals or Federal District Court, whatever. Anyway, it's all a clusterfuck.
This seems like the entire purpose of why we have some of these laws around discrimination, so that you can't discriminate. If you allow religious freedom to overwrite any law because you don't feel like doing it, then what the fuck is a law for?
Yeah, exactly right. People, this is an interesting thought experiment to do sometime of if all you have to do is say because Jesus, and that means it doesn't matter what it was or why you did it. You just get to, because that's what you think the First Amendment means. That's anarchy, my brother.
That's why I think it's the Church of Satan that does these things. They are also a church and have religious, if y'all are going to claim religious freedom, they're going to do it too. And you might not like the things that they use it for. So
Yep, exactly right. I do love them. I love me some malicious compliance, you know?
Yep.
Okay. News the second, Kyle.
Yeah.
On June 11th, President Volodymyr Zelensky of Ukraine was asked about normalizing LGBTQ plus rights in his war-torn country of the Ukraine. And he said, quote, Ukrainians are all here together. We are defending the state. We are the same, and we have absolutely the same rights. He said Ukrainians are a modern people, and this is all at a time that their parliament is debating recognizing same-sex partnerships, all while they have better shit to do, which is fight this war. But yeah, same-sex marriage and civil partnerships are not yet legal in the Ukraine. This is momentum. The parliament is reworking their civil code this spring. There are 30 civil society groups that are pushing back on provisions that would block courts from recognizing same-sex family relationships, arguing that they violate European standards. And the Ukraine is trying to get into the EU, so they kind of have to get their shit together when it comes to gay people before that's going to happen. But yeah, and they also have been pointing out that there are LGBTQ plus soldiers fighting the Russians on the ground, and they have no legal standing for their partners, despite the fact that they're getting mowed down by Putin and his fucking asshole thugs. So you know.
I hate that sometimes it takes a group of people going to war to be like, hey, we were in war with you, so now we deserve rights. And it's like, what the fuck? Like, that's such a bad barometer for I don't like war in general, and I don't like conflict. So like,
you heard it here first, everybody. Kyle is anti-war.
Anti-war. That's a strong stance these days, to be against war. Yeah. And yeah, like, it just sucks that that's how some people get rights, is by being like, no, we fought in a war. We killed people with you. Yeah. So give us rights. I hate that.
I hate that too. I hate it too, but here we are.
Yeah.
Anyway, so hopefully, in a poll, which polling is always kind of a, thing you can't hang your hat on, but over 70% of Ukrainians support equal LGBTQ plus rights. That was in 2024 that they did that poll. So, like, listen to your people.
Yeah, even if polls are like not totally accurate, that's the data that they're using to make decisions, and maybe they'll be like, oh, cool, like the public support is on our side, and let that influence their decision, right or wrong, for better or for worse.
Yeah. Fingers crossed, Kyle.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah. News the last. Rihanna Kelver, a trans woman, was outside the Crowbar and Grill in Laramie, Wyoming, when a man hurling homophobic and transphobic slurs with two companions knocked her to the ground. She pulled a gun in self-defense, but she is the one now facing 2 felonies and up to 15 years in prison.
What?
A judge has ordered her to trial despite the self-defense evidence. Wyoming has a stand your ground law, but apparently the aggravated assault statute she was charged under carves out an exemption, and the judge let the case proceed to trial anyway. Her lawyer argued for dismissal under stand your ground and lost. So basically, stand your ground unless you're trans.
Yeah, like they fucking love the First Amendment. They love defending yourself with a gun unless you're a person. Fuck, sorry. Yeah. They love that you can say whatever you want to these people that are attacking you. Yeah, they love the Second Amendment and defending yourself with it unless you're a person they don't like, in which case you don't get to do the thing they like.
Right. Exactly right. So fuck you, Wyoming.
Yeah, that sucks.
Yeah, I really hope that I don't know. I hope reason prevails, and it's just going to take a different path to justice.
Yeah. Did he die?
No.
Okay, that's good.
No, nobody died. It's just she defended herself, but she was a queer person that was attacked for being queer, and then defended herself with a gun, which they're supposed to love in Wyoming, and then was prosecuted for surviving that. So
yeah.
I don't know. I don't know, man. That's the news.
Speaking of things that I want to defend our Patreon. It's a great place to go sign up for and feel like you're committing something to the gay community. We have no new Patreon members this month,
Kyle,
or this week. This during Pride Month. How could you, listeners? If you want to get ad-free episodes a day early, if you want to support the show, if you want to use Mike's hole, if you want to get merch and discounts and maybe even create an episode topic of your own and meet with us to plan it out, then go to patreon.com/gayish podcast.
I'm so pissed off. I don't even know if I want my hole to be used anymore, Kyle.
Oh, Mike is retracting consent of his hole, everybody.
Nah, I'm kidding.
Okay.
Use my hole.
Okay. Use them.
Do you want to talk about trans sports?
Yeah, we're talking about trans athletes. We usually called it trans sports, and then we're like, that sounds like a sport that only trans people are allowed to play rather than the sports that trans people do.
Okay. All right. Potato padildo.
I think it's like dildo McMuffin, you know? They're very different things.
Okay, great.
Okay, so yeah, we are going to have a couple guests on who are experts in this. One who has done research into this topic for most of her career. One who has personally had the experience of being a trans athlete in sports. And they're going to give us some great perspective that we need on this topic. This was one, sometimes we don't always do this thing where like we're not experts on a thing, so we shouldn't be the ones that talk about it. And and this time around, we did the right thing of like having guests on to do the talking about it.
Yeah, but I don't know. Isn't everybody an expert in everything now with ChatGPT?
Yeah, that's true. When is our first AI hosted episode going to be where we just have our guest of like OpenAI is going to be our guest for that week?
With 496 episodes, Kyle, I'm pretty sure that we can be deep faked like no problem.
Yeah, we have a lot of content for AI to slurp up. Fucking loves our jizz so much. It just
loves
slips
slurping.
Us up. Yep.
Clods a cum dump.
We should come up with like the sexual interests of each of the different AI personas to figure out like if Claude's the cum dump, like ChatGPT is like the sub wants to be dommed, because it's always like, oh, great idea. Oh, sure. Yeah, I'm into that.
Yeah, ChatGPT is in a gimp suit for sure.
Anyway, okay, we are going to talk about trans athletes, but first I wanted to ask you a few questions. And first is, why are we talking about this topic, just both us on this episode and us as a nation?
Yeah, I mean, they started it.
Yeah.
It's because trans people are getting shit on nonstop all the time by the government, by their school districts, by the society. Like it just is it's so bad. And for whatever reason, sports, that's the hill that cis straight people decided that they wanted to die on, was sports, especially their fucking junior high school kids sports that don't actually matter.
I wanted to get back to that, but yeah, they are. I feel like before it was trans people in bathrooms, like they pick a specific. I think it's really smart of them, evil and smart, to pick a very specific, not just trans people in general, and say trans people are icky. Say this specific part of it is unfair to help demonize them as a whole. I think we need to do better at picking something more specific. Like, I don't like war, but like, just generally saying that is not great. I should be like more specific and say, I don't think we should bomb children. That I think is something a lot of people could get behind that we do. So yeah, anyway, that is the kind of the issue that before it was bathrooms, now it's sports, that they are raising to help demonize trans people for their constituents.
Yeah.
Did you ever play sports growing up, Mike?
I mean, sort of, not really. Yeah. I played soccer when I was like a little kid, and t-ball, but no, I was not an athlete. I ran track in junior high. I did shot put, and I was pretty okay at it, which is hilarious because I was the teeny tiniest twink you ever saw when I was 12. But no, nothing in high school, really. How about you? You played football, you said.
I played football for a year in junior high, not in high school. I played all the sports growing up. I played soccer, baseball, basketball. I basically did everything. And then in junior high and high school, I did a bunch of sports, but narrowed down by high school to track. And I did cross country for like my freshman year, and then did track for a couple of years. And I remember when I quit, because it was this big thing. We had this horrible track coach that was like, I think one of those like angry, has a lovable heart somewhere deep down in there, but is going to yell at you. So you try to, he like would hide in bushes and pop out at people when they were running. Like he'd just do weird shit. He'd drive in cold weather, just drive his car beside us and yell at us from the car. Anyway, amazing. He's dead now. So, yeah. Great. So I remember when I quit, because I did band most or all through high school, and that was my big school involvement thing. Yeah, I was definitely gay as a drum major.
Also me too. So
yeah. And I remember quitting. I was like, I don't like this. I don't want to do it. And that was the first of many times where I came to accept the thing that was true about what I like. That I think eventually kind of built up my ability to come out. So. I have quitting sports to thank for that.
Look at that. You made lemons into lemonade, Kyle.
Yeah. I made it into a Beyonce album. What is the point of sports?
I don't know. I don't know. And it's because I'm not a competitive person.
Do you think it is for some people? Do you think the point is to compete?
Yeah. And to like, it's like I've heard tell, Kyle, that sports are like how you do war when you don't want to actually have guns and kill people, but that like we're a savage species that requires conflict. And that's the most civilized version of it that we can muster.
I buy into that. I think that when like with boxing, you think of it as more extreme. Like we love seeing people beat the shit out of each other. And we arrange these things that feel like they're professional and above board, but it's still people beating the shit out of each other, which is kind of horrific when you think about it. So I can buy into like, we like horrific things and want to see this shit go down. Beyond that, I would say that like at a younger age, sports are about teaching you. I think competition is legit, but like more like teaching you how to compete in something, teaching you about passions, teaching you about playing on a team, teaching you about hard work and dedication. I think all of those things sports are not about winning and being the first place team. I think winning can teach you a lot. I think losing can teach you a lot. I think there's a lot that we want from sports to help kids learn and grow. And that's where I think some of these arguments are based in the idea that the point is to compete and be in first place. And I don't think that's the point at a certain age. There does move into like when you get to like high school, maybe, and then into like college and above, then you are competing at expert levels. And one of the points is to win, but not at like elementary school.
Right. Yeah, I totally agree with that. Although good luck telling the parents that the way the parents show up at sports. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Calm down. They're 7 years old.
Yeah, it'll be fine. Yeah, you have like a 13-year-old reffing the game, and he's like, "I think he was safe," and you yell. You're like, it's fine. Everyone will be fine." Do you care about sports now?
No.
Okay, good. This will be fun.
No, I do not, and I sometimes feel like I want to, because people who like sports really like them, and I wish that there was something so easily accessible that would make me feel as happy or as engaged or as passionate as sports fans are about sports, you know?
Yeah. I know what you mean. Like whatever. I don't often, but sometimes I'll go to like a baseball game with our favorite fag, Doug and Koviak, or, my parents will come into town, and we went to a Kraken game not too long ago. Like, and I enjoy sports when I go and I watch the Super Bowl every year. Like I enjoy sports when I am sitting there watching them. I understand the rules of all these different games because I played them all. I get it. And I can watch and enjoy it and even have some opinions about what people did right or wrong. And I'm always, when I do watch it, I'm like, why don't I care more about this? And then I leave that event and suddenly I'm back to not giving a shit at all.
I can when I decide to want a team to win, and I'm especially in person watching. And if it's a close game and there's some kind of like climax of like, oh, we won, I do get elated at that. I scream. I'm genuinely joyful for those like 30 seconds, but then I stop. And then I'm done. And then I go.
See, I don't feel that kind of elation. I don't have a vested interest, even in our own sports, even in Seattle sports teams. I don't care enough to be happy that they won. I'm not even that. If I had to pick, I guess I'd lean towards us winning, but I don't really care all that much. I've said it before. I'll repeat it because it's relevant on this topic. Whenever I was in college, I would eventually by my senior year, I was like, oh, fuck, I hate going to football games. I'm going to not do that anymore. And it's in Texas. So everyone went to the football game. It was a big event. You got dressed with all your friends. You hid your flasks somewhere because you were underage. Usually in your cowboy boots, you could put a flask pretty easily in a big cowboy boot. But I was like, I hate this, and stopped going. The only reason I wanted our team to win is because if we won, my friends would come back and they would be excited and happy and we'd go out together. And if they lost, they'd be sad and everyone would go home and I wouldn't get to do anything. So that's why I cared whether we won or not.
Let's talk about this real quick, Kyle.
Okay.
Why do people who are in sports think it's okay to pray to God that they win and that the other team loses? Like what?
Yeah, God really cares about the 49ers or something. Like he really wants the 49ers to take it to the home team.
Or this high school game, right?
Yeah.
Like, please, God, let us go to state. That means God is not sending someone else to state. Like, why do you think this is a thing God cares about? And why do you think God is picking you over the other team? It's so confusing to me.
It's wild when you think about it. It's like egotistical in a weird way that like God cares about me more because I'm a better Christian or whatever reason they have.
Yeah, it's wild. Anyway,
I played football, we always kneeled before games and said, I think it's the Lord's Prayer. Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. I know those lines just because we used to say it every time before football. I don't think I know the rest, but
yeah.
Another question. Why do we have gendered sports?
Well, this is a great question, Kyle. And I'm sure that our guests will be able to educate us more deeply. And most sports, especially the violent ones, like your size and physical strength are really key to performing well, and biological male folks have some advantages in those departments. And I think then we had this bifurcation that girls didn't really play sports until like the 60s. Like, sure, there was like a League of Our Own shit like that, but like it was really the 60s when Title IX started happening, and we started realizing like, oh, it's not going to hurt girls to let them play sports, but we need them to be segregated because they're tender or something. But that's why I think a lot of that is either oversimplified or no longer true, or, you know, we don't need fucking gendered chess, or, you know, there's like, and that's one way like end of the spectrum, but like, there's so many sports that it's about technique and skill as much as it is about physical prowess. And the fact that those sports are still gendered is just mystifying, but change is hard. Humans are dumb.
Yeah. One thing I will say back to the beginning of what you said, I think that the phrase like biological male and female has fallen out of favor. We'll ask them, our guests, more about this. They will know better language to use. I think because it tends to be a dog whistle for people that are transphobic. So I don't think it's used as much. And I don't know. We'll ask them what that means to them, like what a biological male is to them. And I think that'll be part of the gender conversation that we have with them. But I think the honest, uncomfortable thing that I want to ask more about is I do think that people assigned male at birth tend to have and go through puberty tend to be physically larger. Like I think on average they're taller. So I don't know how you escape that thing, that advantage that they got in sports. And I know some of the arguments against it, so I don't want to I'm oversimplifying just so I can set this up for the conversation, but there is a weird part of me that feels like there might be some advantages, and I want to talk through those and get the truth from people that have the experience and knowledge.
Yep. They're going to do it. They're going to tell us. They're going to
tell us. I sure hope so, because that's why they're coming on.
Yeah, we do need to calibrate on vocabulary, and I absolutely will be the dum-dum that fucks it up. I'm happy to play that role.
Yeah, I do have listed on amongst my questions, what does biological male or biological female mean to you, to get their take on it. So it's on my list.
Great.
Yeah.
So did we do it?
We did it for now. More to come. That's what Davey Wavy says. We're not him.
Okay. Well, we're going to take a break. And when we come back, we're going to have Dr. Anna Byeth and Chris Mosier. And we're going to talk to them about their expertise in this stuff.
Yep. Let's do it.
Okay, great. You want to take a break?
Let's take a break.
Let's take a break.
This is the part where Mike and Kyle take a break.
So are we back?
We're back.
We're back. I always wanted to say we're going to do our Gayest and Straightest, but that's not this part.
That's not this part yet. I know. I do too. We are here with Chris Mosier, who is joining to talk about trans athletes. Welcome to the show, Chris.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Chris is a trailblazing athlete. He's a coach, and he's the founder of transathlete.com. We also mentioned in the intro that we are going to have on Dr. Anna Byeth. She is having some technical issues, so she may pop in and she may not. We'll see. We'll see how this interview goes. For now, we got Chris representing.
It's the theme of the day. I'm on the road in Atlanta. I had issues at the beginning. I might drop off at any moment. You
might just hear a podcast of me. We'll see.
Yeah, exactly. It's the Kyle show, everybody. Hey, Chris, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you, Kyle. We'll crush it if we need to.
Okay, I appreciate that.
I've got you.
I wanted to start the conversation by asking, you've spent most of your life in sports and now, made it so much of your life. What originally got you interested and invested in sports?
Initially, it was just play. As a kid, like sport was what we did outside. It's how we spent our time when we were not in school. I remember even before I was in school, like very, very young, it was just playing outside. And for us, because in my neighborhood, I lived next to my cousins and my uncle was a baseball coach. And I remember, probably 3-4 years old playing t-ball in my backyard. I had the biggest backyard in the neighborhood, and that's where the kids came to play. And so it was t-ball, it was soccer, it was tag, it was dodgeball, it was whatever, but it was always some sort of physical movement and play. And that was really where I started to see that I was appreciated and I was validated as a kid in ways that it seemed like my peers were validated in the classroom or in their families. Like I was a little gender nonconforming kid growing up in the 80s. And I think that was, for me, that was like isolating. It was lonely. It was a place that it drove me to sport because I was able to find that validation and the friendships and the community that I sort of lacked in the classroom and in the neighborhood outside of sport.
Yeah. Where did you grow up? What part of the world is this neighborhood with the big backyard in?
It was in the suburbs of Chicago.
Oh, okay. Mm-hmm. Yeah, Chicagoland.
Yep.
All right. Yeah.
Yep.
It's both very sweet and also a little bit heartbreaking knowing what's going on right now, that sport can be a place like a refuge for people, a place that you can go when you don't have the validation elsewhere. So, I'm curious. That leads into one of the questions we talked about in the intro is, what is the goal of sports?
Oh, yeah. The goal of sports, it really depends on the level of play, right? Primarily. But I think people have this vision of sport as the top elite 1% of Olympians, Paralympians, and professional athletes. That is to win, right? It is at all costs to win. But the real goal of sports for the whole rest of the world is community, it's play, it's challenging ourselves, it's doing something for fun. There are so many different reasons that people are drawn to sport. And the thing that people don't recognize and realize is that trans people are drawn to sport for the same reason as anybody else, right? Like, we want to find our friends, we want to challenge ourselves, we want to see how far we can push ourselves. And sometimes, yes, we want to win, but also that's not the only thing that sports is about.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that makes sense. And why I don't think we landed anywhere really great when we initially talked about this. Why are there gendered sports?
Ooh, this is a great question. So I think that, there really are gendered sports now in the system of sport as we know it because of, buckle in, the fragility of cis male egos. like literally that's it. There are so many stories in history of sports being just one group of people competing together and a woman winning, and then that woman and all women being banned from sport because the men just couldn't take losing to a woman. Mm-hmm. So in the early 1900s, there was figure skating. A woman won overall, and all women were banned from skating for many years after that. More recently in skeet shooting, as an example, that was a mixed gender competition. And when a woman won the Olympic medal overall, suddenly there became gender categories. Like we couldn't possibly have a woman be the best in the sport. And so a lot of the system and structure of sport is set up because of that. But it is something that has become so ingrained in our society that it's difficult to imagine unwinding the structure of sport as it remains today.
Yeah. Yeah. And then, I mean, I think one of the assumptions and something that I struggle with is the assumption that if you are assigned male at birth, then you would tend to, and go through puberty, you would tend to be things like taller and have more musculature. How does that affect gendered sports and people competing in sports? Yeah,
it's interesting. I mean, it is a bit of a stereotype, right? But like by and large, like that is people assigned male at birth who go through a testosterone driven puberty can have the capacity of being taller, right? And having more muscle. Not going to deny that, but also as a person who is assigned female at birth, and I'm not super tall, I'm 5'9", but when I'm standing on a subway, I am looking over the heads of a lot of men on that train, right? Or at least looking them in the eyes. And so, I think that we put a lot of emphasis on puberty, and it does create two different pathways. But we also have to understand like the overlap, and that it's not that simple, right? It's not just as simple to say, oh, you were assigned this at birth, you went through this puberty, and that means that you will be a bigger, faster, stronger, and better athlete than anyone assigned female at birth. And I think that's sort of the structure that people are stuck in. That's the ideology and what we've been told, particularly by the right more recently, that is the only thing that matters. Right. But the truth is, just because one is taller or more muscular doesn't mean that they will be good at sports. Right. Every sport has its things that are a benefit to it. So being super tall might be a benefit in basketball and volleyball, but it might not be a benefit in horse racing. Right. Or or even in soccer, it might not be an advantage. Right. So we all find the sports that suit us. And I think that people sort of miss the point on what advantages in sport actually look like and what those, how those play out, because it's different from sport to sport.
Yeah. I am 6'3", and I am proof that you can be tall and very bad at sports.
Yeah.
I'm curious if you could share a little bit more about your relation to sports as you were transitioning. Did it bring you closer? Did it push you away? How did that feel during that process?
Yeah. Sport was really pivotal in my transition process, because when I knew the terminology and had the understanding that I'm trans, which is something that I've kind of known my entire life. I just didn't have the words to put to it. I didn't know how to explain that to my parents. I didn't know how to talk about that with my classmates or my siblings. And once I finally had that understanding, I was terrified that I would lose my ability to compete in sports. Because as we said at the top of the show, right, or top of my segment, that sport has been a place of refuge for me. It's been a place where I have felt so comfortable and so like myself. And in today's world, sport is an incredibly hostile place for trans and non-binary people. And so I was terrified that by telling people that I'm trans, sport would turn on me. That I would not be able to participate authentically, and maybe that I wouldn't be able to participate at the same level that I had been participating. I was on track to be a pretty high level female athlete in triathlon and working my way up. And I was terrified that I would no longer be able to be competitive and no longer be able to, and not just like competitive in terms of the rankings, but even be able to line up to compete. And so I really labored over that decision. I waited a year and a half before I came out, knowing myself, because of that idea of not because of my parents, not because of my workplace, but simply because of sport. And what I found when I did transition was that, first of all, my cis and straight teammates on my triathlon team were the absolute best. And that was because of sport. It was because they knew me as a teammate, they knew me as a coach, they knew me as a leader, and they knew I was a good person, and they appreciated me as a friend. And so even though they had never met a trans person in real life before, they did the effort to do the research, to, ask Google the questions before they would ask me, which is, good and bad. Like, don't always trust everything you see online, but also don't treat every trans person like your personal Google. And I actually struggled with my LGBTQ leagues. At that time, I was living in New York, and I was participating in queer dodgeball, queer softball. I was in gay bowling for a while, like using that as a social outlet. And I found that before transition was a welcoming place. And then after I came back and told people I was trans, became really hostile and hateful, which was totally unexpected. But yeah, I think sport has always been there for me. And sport was once I did come out, I was able to pour my energy and all of that effort that I was spending in like hiding those parts of who I am, right? Like not telling people what I was listening to in my pump up music, or being cautious of how I was standing, or how my clothes were fitting, and how I would appear to people at the starting line, because I didn't want them to know my truth before I was ready to tell them. And, once that weight was off my shoulder, my performance went up, my relationships improved, and the effort that I was able to put into my training and racing was much better, and therefore my results were better as well.
Wow. So I definitely want to ask, if it's okay, about what happened in those queer spaces that you were just talking about, because our audience is primarily cis gay dudes, and I assume that it's cis gay dudes that were shitty to you. Is that accurate?
I'm glad that you said that, because I would also say cis gay dudes and not like gay men, right? Dudes. So they were the worst to me. And it was largely because I believe they thought that they had a pass, right? They thought that they could say things to me. This was the time period of, was it maybe Project Runway, where someone would say hot tranny mess? That was like the catchphrase. Yeah. And so I remember being at bowling, and the lane next to me, these two gay dudes put up tranny as their name. And I had just come out, and it was like very fresh for me. And I was trying to get people to use the right pronouns, and I was really struggling, and they were right there, and they were laughing about it and making a big deal of it. And I came over and I was like, yo guys, like, this is really offensive. And they were like, oh, you want a picture with it? That was their response. I mean, it felt like there was no space for me. I mean, part of it was also structural too. So our league was playing in, for dodgeball, for example, we were playing in New York City parks and recreation facilities that didn't have a gender neutral restroom. They didn't have a third space to go to. And to get to the gyms, you had to go through one of the two locker rooms. And so I was trying to work with them to figure out like what was the safest route for me very early in my transition, where I knew I wouldn't be welcomed in the women's locker room. That didn't feel like the right space for me, but the men's locker room felt really unsafe and hostile. And they told me to go down to change at the McDonald's down the street.
Oh God.
And so, and when I brought that to the league at that time, they were like, well, we don't really know what to tell you. And I can say there were not other trans men in that league that I knew of. And so at that time period, I was really a first in a lot of the sporting spaces that I was in. And there were a lot of growing pains. And I don't think that a lot of it was intentionally hostile, but I think that's what made it even more hurtful coming from the queer community, is that I thought that transitioning in that space would be safer. And I thought that it would be more welcomed and more supported. And I really felt like my straight cis teammates like knocked it out of the park, and here the people that I thought would have my back the most, my chosen family, really struggled to figure out how to support me.
That's really frustrating.
How much of that is a product of the time? Like, do you think if you were to start transitioning now that you would have the same sort of struggle?
A huge part of it was the product of the time, because like the reference of someone saying hot tranny mess, right? That was what was on TV. That was permissible on reality TV as a catchphrase, right? And while people on the right might be saying that all the time, I don't even know, that would not fly on TV today, right? So I know that the there was a lack of education. There was a lack of visibility of trans people to the point where our existence was kind of more common, I guess, in pop culture, in media, in the daily conversations. And we've gone through a lot of checkpoints since then. We've gone through the transgender tipping point, and we've had big people come out and have that visibility. And it's honestly, though, the reason why I've dedicated myself to advocacy is those experiences. Like that, it's really is like understanding that I had to pull people along. I had to educate them while I fought for my own rights. And I want to underscore like how difficult that is when you're going through something like that. I didn't know what I needed. Like, if someone would have said like, what do you need to be safe? Like, I would have been like, I don't really know. Like, I don't even know there was no blueprint for me. There was no one that I could look to who had been doing what I wanted to do. And so, that it was a catalyst for transathlete.com, for me to be so outspoken, because I want to be the person that I wish that I had at that time period to look to as for guidance, right? Because we're in a very different environment now, but in a lot of ways, it's almost worse. The social rhetoric, the politicization of trans identities is far worse now than the ignorance of that time period.
Yeah, well, and we're definitely moving backwards in a lot of ways. Let's talk about your work with the IOC and everything in like the 2008 2010 kind of range. You helped the IOC toward inclusion back then, and we've just quite recently taken some big steps back. Yeah, in
2015, I challenged the IOC to change their policy because I had qualified for the World Championship and was ineligible to compete based on their rules for trans athletes, which required surgery and hormone wait time. And so it was really, fighting again for my own space to play. I qualified just like every other man who was on the team. And, that was the barrier for me. So it really was an amazing group of lawyers that I partnered with to get that changed. And we saw the IOC, the International Olympic Committee, make steps towards inclusion that from 2015 all the way through their consensus statement on fairness and inclusion in 2020 time period, we saw great steps forward. And it seemed like the IOC was really interested in figuring out how we could include more people in sport as opposed to discriminate against a group of people in sport. And now we have a full ban on transgender women in the women's category and a lot of question marks about the participation of non-binary athletes. And, it still remains to be seen how trans men will be treated at the higher levels of play as well.
Yeah. And that's pretty fresh news. It was just in March that Kirsty Coventry, the new IOC president, said that trans women will not be allowed in women's events effective in the 2028 Los Angeles Games. And called it, this is the worst part, quote, protection of the female category. And it's interesting to me how often the rhetoric just gets boiled down to like what's in people's pants. Like they can't look any further than that. And this sort of statement that that's how reductive we're going to be now is really disheartening.
Yeah, I think the big headline that was missed with that announcement is that not only are trans women banned from the women's category, but every person who competes in the women's category now needs to undergo genetic testing in order to qualify to compete in the women's category. And the Olympics has tried this before. It was a failed effort. It was actually ended because it was not accurate and it was harmful to athletes. And now any person who's going to compete in the women's division needs to undergo these tests. And there will be women who find out information about themselves that they did not know. And they're going to do it they're going to find out in a way that is not going to be supportive of their futures and of their livelihoods as athletes. And so I think, it is devastating that trans women are not allowed to authentically participate. And I should also say only one trans woman has ever openly participated in the Olympic Games in the women's category. And she was the first person out of her division. She did not podium. She did not get a medal. the bigger impact is going to be on cisgender women who are subjected to these tests. And also this does nothing to promote safety and fairness for women. There are so many things in sports because of the way that sport is, this sexist structure that preferences male athletes. It gives resources to the men's divisions. It promotes and supports men in ways that it does not support women in sports. Mm-hmm. And this does not improve the conditions for women. This does not stop abusive coaches. Mm-hmm. This does not equal the pay gap. This does not give resources to women athletes.
Mm-hmm. Did you, when you competed in the women's divisions and then competed in men's divisions, did you feel a difference in level of support that you're describing when you started competing in men's divisions?
It's an interesting question. I think, I was climbing through the women's division, but was not yet on Team USA in the women's division. So I think like the level of play became different when I did make Team USA in the men's side. But what I found more than anything was that I, as a trans man, was really kind of welcomed in with a shrug and okay, whatever. And I can't say that that's different than being on the women's teams in a lot of cases, because as an athlete on a women's team, I was often, my team, right, was often subjected to the second time slot for practices, being in the shitty gym, right, having the hand-me-down equipment from the boys teams. Like there were so many things that as a young girl athlete, I was like, wow, this is very different than the experience my brother is having, right? From the coaching to how we were talked to the level of seriousness, right? Like my brother was told to go be competitive, run through first base, like man up, don't cry. Like this is, you win at all costs. I was told to like have fun and don't hurt myself, right? Like, it's like, oh, like don't get your uniform too dirty, right? Like it's just for fun. And, like I think that people just thought that the girls' teams wanted to like sing and do cheers on the bus, and that the boys' teams were really in it to win it. And so, when I transitioned to the men's side, there was a little bit more legitimacy given to my participation in athletics until they found out that I'm trans. And then it was kind of a shrug. And, I think I benefited in a lot of ways from people assuming that anyone assigned male at birth will be a better athlete than me. And even when I make Team USA, I kind of get a shrug, and it's like, well, you got lucky. And I just keep getting lucky, which is pretty amazing.
Yeah. I mean, it does seem like trans women are the lightning rod, right? That that's
absolutely
what everybody is so up in arms about on the right. And
yes.
Like, why do you think that is? Why are they so much more resistant to that than you as a person?
Well, part of it, I think, is, every accusation is a confession for the right. So when there are people saying that they don't want trans women in locker rooms, right? It's because if the cis man who is making these policies was in a locker room, he would be acting in some sort of way, right? Mm-hmm. It's like it's projection in a lot of ways, but it's also this idea of setting up a lot of different structures, right? So one is positioning women as weak, as someone who needs protecting, someone who can't take care of themselves. And while that is, kind of a 1950s housewife sort of idea that they're trying to put on women, you can see the reason why they're doing that, because they are taking away rights to bodily autonomy. I mean, it's been like 55 years or so that women have been able to get a credit card on their own without a cosign of their husband. And they're trying to take away those rights. Like they are truly trying to roll back society to be men as head of household and women as subservient housewife and baby makers. Right. And so like part of that, like the freedom and liberation of trans people does not fit neatly within their structures and ideas of their future, and is a threat, quite honestly. Like our freedom, our liberation, our ability to authentically exist in a world that tells us to be mediocre is a threat. And I think sport has been the target specifically because if they can say that trans women are a danger on the court or the field, then they can say that we are a threat everywhere else. Right. And so painting trans people as dangerous in locker rooms or on a basketball team can say that we don't belong in restrooms and that we shouldn't have access to the shelter system and that we would be, a threat in the carceral system and right, we're bad in schools, like all of these things. And so it really is a very strategic point to target sports first because people are so invested in sports emotionally in the United States and globally.
Yeah.
Is there some kind of response that the LGBT community could be making to this that we're missing right now?
Yeah, interesting. I think that I think it's just standing up and speaking out when trans people are in the room and when we're not, right? For the existence of trans people, saying that we belong, saying that we are who we say we are. I mean, that's the foundation of all of this, right? Is that the right doesn't see trans people as real. And so if you're going to call a trans woman a biological man, quote unquote, like when you're referring to her, they're trying to eliminate our existence. And it would be really helpful if our allies were able to combat that either through their own talking points or by asking questions to get people to think more about what they're saying. And I think this is a big part of what we try to do in Fair Game is to use the stories of trans people in our athletic experiences to really try to get our allies to ask better questions. And not just ask better questions of trans people, right? But to ask better questions amongst themselves. So if somebody comes to you with like some super transphobic thing, right? You can say, oh, that's interesting. Tell me more about how you got to that. Like, where did you hear that from? That's not what I've heard. Like, can you tell me more about how you came to this opinion? Because one thing that's happening like at large right now is that these transphobic, homophobic, biphobic, like anything phobic opinions online are largely going unchecked. And so people can just say the most ridiculous, incorrect, offensive, dishonest things about our community. And it goes unchecked. And the more that is out there, the more that we see our social media world spin up lies and misinformation. And so asking those questions of like, hey, where did you hear that? Right? That's going to make you, as the person who said it, have to either plant your flag in the ground and double down on that or explain yourself. Right. And then I think that's how we sort of get to places where we get into better conversations instead of debates or arguments or, monologues about whether or not trans people should exist.
That's a good plug for in our Patreon. In the book, Fair Game, there is a section that is questions that cis people can ask themselves, better questions that cis people can ask themselves. Mike and I are going to ask ourselves those questions and talk through them. But I think one of the challenges in especially online discourse that you're referring to is that by commenting on a transphobic tweet or whatever, you are amplifying that and it gets more attention, which is the opposite of the goal. So I struggle with how do you both engage in a way that is helpful, but also not give them the time of day that they're begging for.
Yeah, I think not every comment needs a response. There are certainly people out there who are baiting. So here's one that I see all the time. I can go on Threads every single day. There will be someone who posts a picture of someone that they perceive to be a trans woman going into a women's bathroom and says, how would you feel peeing next to this person, ladies? Right? They're just baiting for comments, right? And that's obvious. That's some bot behavior. Like we don't need to engage there. But as a trans person, I will tell you that being online, when I see something that is transphobic and there's nobody checking that, that is harmful. That does not create a safe space for trans and non-binary people to be online. Right. So I actually appreciate when, say, somebody says some transphobic stuff on my comments, that somebody goes in and checks them in my comments for me. Like that's huge ally behavior. That is alleviating the burden for me. And do I respond to every transphobic thing? Absolutely not. I respond to most things about my mustache. I don't always respond to everything about transphobic. But I think that not having, when allies are silent in that I don't know that they're actually allies, right? Part of being an ally is taking action, and it has to be a continuous practice. And I know that there are times where we have to check for safety, like particularly in person, right? I was on the train recently and witnessed a situation that needed intervention. I was the only person on a train full of 40 people who intervened in a domestic dispute where a woman was getting thrashed, and not a single person backed me up. And, you have to check for safety. Like, there are ally interactions like that, but by and large, our online interactions are not that serious. There's not a physical threat. Yeah, maybe somebody will go off in the comments, but like, we need more people who are willing to stand in their values more often.
Yeah. Yeah. The bystander effect is real, and it's even more real when you're talking about this kind of conflict. About your mustache, though.
Please, let's go.
What is the name of that mustache? We talked about this on our
just a classic handlebar.
Classic handlebar.
Just a handle. Yeah.
My boyfriend had curly cues like that on the end of his mustache, and then ended up shaving them off because he couldn't keep them vertically aligned with each other. One was always like going off and doing its own thing. How do you?
Well, I thought we were going to save the Gayest thing for later, but I will tell you. I actually 2 years ago on Black Friday purchased a little mini flat iron, and there is a whole routine of there's a lot of blow drying that happens for the mustache, and then curling, and then if it does get wonky and it starts to look like I'm a catfish or the Lorax, then I will take that little flat iron and help it back into position. And then there's wax and sometimes hairspray, depending on how serious we are.
Okay.
Multiple waxes. Yeah, I mean, it is a very high maintenance, very, very gay.
This is not as important as the mustache routine, but I wanted to go back to the phrase that you used, biological male, biological female. Yeah. Tell me about those phrases, because we talked about those in the intro, and what do they mean and what do they mean to you?
Yeah, biology is a real thing, right? Like, but it's not a real thing in the way that the right wants you to believe. Like and the way our sports system wants you to believe, right? We don't, as humans, fit into two neat little checkboxes. There are many ways to be a woman, many ways to be a man, and there are many ways in our bodies that can show up, right? Both through secondary sex characteristics, like I have an amazing mustache, but also my brother can barely grow a beard, right? So like that, my cisgender brother can barely grow a beard. And there are different ways to look, to act, to express yourself. There are different chromosomes that people may have, and intersex people are real. And I think that the terminology of biological man, biological woman has really been weaponized against the trans community. And so that's why in community, you'll often hear us say assigned female at birth as opposed to biological woman or born a woman, right? No one's born a woman, you're born a baby, because it really is. The language is really intentional, right? This is part of the reason why you'll hear people say in the sports world, do you want a man playing on the field with your daughter, right? Daughter. Think about, like, when they're thinking this context is in a K through 12 situation, right? We're thinking younger girl, say 14 to 18 years old in high school. And you say a biological man, right? A man is a grown adult. Assigned male at birth, right? Like in this case, when they're saying biological man. And that is a really intentional use of wording to try to get people to think a grown man is going to come into the high school locker room and assault or even just be present with your daughter. It's a fear tactic. And so the language of using biological man has been really intentional and weaponized to try to harm us and to validate the reasons why trans people shouldn't, in their opinions, be included in sport and other parts of the world.
We've talked about right-wing people, their views, and we know that they're pretty horrible. Are there views that even liberal people still have about trans people, either in sports or otherwise, that you think is off, that they don't get checked on?
I think a lot of people are getting checked. which I love. Like, I think more people are getting checked, but we do have some politicians, right, who are getting caught up in this conversation largely through sport. And so, you know, when Gavin Newsom or Pete Buttigieg say like they're not sure about the trans sport thing, right, that is incredibly harmful because they're not sure because they're not educated on it. And so it just seems like a really a careless phrase and statement to make when people are having these interviews. Like, if every politician has to know they're going to get asked about this question. Like, at this point, you know, this is the obsession of the right. It's going to come up. You need to have a response to that is informed and educated, particularly if you're a member of community.
Yeah. It's giving Barack Obama being not for gay marriage. You know what I mean? Like there things that you have to say to hit the middle of the electorate, even if it's not exactly what you might actually believe in your private life. I don't know. I have a hard time believing that Pete Buttigieg, is unsure about it. He just can't say he is sure. I don't know.
Yeah, that might be true. And I think Gavin's trying to play try to ride a line right between like the bro podcasts, bro sphere, and like whatever else he's doing. But people need to understand this rhetoric is incredibly damaging to our community. And it's not a matter of whether or not we'll be banned from sports, right? Like, certainly high-level politicians having anti-trans views will influence policies in some ways. Like, that's a fact. But what influences the rhetoric and the social ways that we interact as humans on the day-to-day in our workplace, in our schools, at the grocery store, that is all influenced by the rhetoric that people see online. And that is largely driven not only by the politicians saying something like that, but the media amplification of that, because the right will jump on that and see, we were right. And then the left media will say, well, wait a second, question mark. And to your earlier point, all of that is amplification of this, right? And so when we have trans people experiencing mental health concerns because of the horrendous environment that we're living in at exponentially higher rates than our cis and straight peers, like, we need to keep that in mind. That's not because trans people have mental illness. That is because this environment that we are living in is making it so hard to be our authentic selves. It's making it so hard to leave our houses, and sometimes so hard to get out of bed each day, right? Because like, we know what fresh hell is out there. And we actually don't know what might be coming down the pipe, right? So like, it has a much larger influence than just sports.
You mentioned bans on trans people in sports, and we haven't talked about that directly. Can you talk a little bit more about where that's at and the impacts to you? Yeah,
so the International Olympic Committee, as we mentioned, has banned trans women from the women's category starting in LA 2028. For Olympic and Paralympic athletes. And, honestly, that's going to impact very, 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 very few people, because we didn't have any openly transgender women in Paris in 2024. We've only had one in history. So that's going to be less of an impact. But what is a bigger impact is the way that policy trickles down to international federations of sport and then to national governing bodies. And as a example of that, the United States Olympic and Paralympic Committee, which is the governing body of all of the United States national governing bodies. So any U.S. sport that goes to the Olympics is under the USOPC, and they have banned trans women as a result of Trump's executive order on sports signed last year. And so that has an impact that trickles down to our youth and recreational sports. So we have certain national governing bodies that have on their own accord banned trans people from participating authentically. Some require participation by birth certificate. Some completely erase intersex people and non-binary people. And then we see that trickle down to youth sports as well. And for youth sports, that would be sort of our travel teams, our city or county recreational teams that usually follow your national governing body policies because they get insurance through them. Like, to have insurance to play soccer, you need to be a part of an organization. But we also have seen 27 states in our country pass a ban on transgender kids in sports, and 2 additional states make policies because they couldn't pass a law. So 29 states ban trans kids from playing authentically, and every college and university in the NCAA system and NAIA, which is the smaller organization of colleges, has also banned trans women from women's sports.
Well, okay. So if there's a closeted trans kid listening to this who loves their sport and wants to have some kind of hope for the future, like what do we tell them? What do we tell closeted trans kids given the environment that we're in?
Yeah, I mean, this is a question I'm faced with every single day, right? I mentor a lot of trans youth. I mentor their families and work with them, and some are out and some are not. And the one thing I will tell everybody is to continue to play their sports. Like, we will find a way, right? Like, we should not be driven out of the same experiences that our peers are able to have. Something that, quite frankly, in our educational system, sport is a part of our educational system for our youth. K through 12, that is something that is embedded in American education. And it is so deeply unfair for trans kids to not have the opportunity like their peers to participate in that educational opportunity, to connect to other people who are different from them, to learn about themselves, all of the things that we talk about all the time, that people get from sports. There are so many people out there who love and support us. There are so many great coaches and supportive parents and people who go to their school board meeting and throw down for trans kids, even if they don't have a trans kid. There are so many allies out there. And so it really is, this is the time, this is the moment where we will look back and really be like, this was a pivotal moment in our country for queer rights. And it really is a matter of like, what side of history do you want to be on? How do you want to be remembered? How do you want people to think about you? How will you have shown up when the times really mattered?
I want to put you on the spot a little bit because Dr. Annabeth wasn't able to join with her technical issues. So you've done plenty of interviews with her. Are there questions? We didn't ask our research focused questions and academic focused questions. Are there questions that she usually gets or things she usually shares that we haven't asked in this interview?
There's a lot of brilliant things that Dr. Baith says. Yeah. So, I think one thing is that, there's not a lot of great research out there on trans athletes. And the sad reality is that there probably won't be good research out there because trans people are banned from participating. And how will you get good research if we are not able to play? Right. But one thing that Dr. Baith will tell you and that we go into in the book is that there is no body of research that fundamentally says that trans people should be banned from sport, right? That is chosen information from studies that were not performed on trans people. A lot of the studies that are cited are either on military folks or just on straight up cisgender men and trying to be applied to trans people. And so there's not a lot of good information out there. And we really need to understand that athletic performance does not boil down to one single factor, right? It is not just about your level of testosterone. There is so much that goes into whether or not a person will be a good athlete. And, chief among those things, like biology is certainly a part of it, right? But chief among those things is whether or not people have money. Right? If you have money, like if you are from a family that has the money to send you to camps for skill development, to give you good nutrition and a safe place to rest your head at night, right? That you feel safe and supported, that you're not having to work as a high school student to like make money so that you can get to practice, right? Like if you have financial support, that is a huge advantage in being an athlete, as is like great equipment, right? Supportive parents who will drive you to practices. Like there are so many things that go into being a good athlete that it does not just boil down to testosterone, but that's what they would like you to believe.
Well, and they would like you to believe that it's about fairness, right? And it's my understanding that we don't have the research to definitively say what's fair.
Well, yeah, and sport has never been fair, honestly, like, and there's certain levels of unfairness that are not only tolerated, they are accepted and they are celebrated, right? So when we get an athlete like Michael Phelps, who is dominant in the pool, or Katie Ledecky as an example, right? In the 2016 Olympics in Rio, Katie Ledecky beat the other women in the Olympics, the top athletes in the world, by an entire pool length. Right. But she was not questioned about her gender. She was celebrated as a once in a generation athlete.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
She has something like the top 22 of 25 world records in her sport. Right. Like, she is dominant, and we accept that. We celebrate people who are 7'4" in the NBA. We celebrate people who can process lactic acid faster than their peers. That's just an advantage that they have that is not only, tolerated, it is celebrated and welcomed. But, and I think that people assume that trans people have advantages, which we talk about in the book and debunk, because I would say it's actually a disadvantage to have to be worried about your safety, to have to be worried about whether or not you'll be able to participate, have to worry. Like, I did a world championship race in Switzerland in September, and I was told by lawyers to not talk about my training or my racing or my trip until after I got back to the United States, because they did not believe I would be allowed back in this country, because this administration would love nothing more than to make an example of a trans athlete.
Wow.
Right.
Wow.
Particularly one on Team USA. Yeah. So I was able to travel internationally to compete on behalf of a country that doesn't think that I belong here or that I even exist. That's something that none of the other competitors had to think about. Yeah. Right. Not only on that day, but in the lead up to, and on, just traveling, just coming back through TSA on the way home.
So you followed that advice then?
I did. Yeah, I did. And also heartbreaking to have something that I'm so invested in, that I care about so much, that I can't even really share with my family and friends and followers.
Wow.
Well, sorry to kill the mood, guys.
No, yeah.
that's part of what we do here, so we're used to it. You talked about, and I really liked your advice for, particularly trans people. What advice or recommendations would you make to cis people who care about this issue?
Speak up. Speak up. Now is the time to be active in your allyship, right? If you don't know the right things to say, come to a workshop, read Fair Game, do some research online. There's plenty of things out there. But in this moment where we have our rights being debated in the Supreme Court about transgender athletes, to, seeing multiple hundreds of bills trying to be made into law to prevent trans people from existing openly, it is so important that people who are not transgender amplify the stories, the positive stories of trans people, and ask those better questions of themselves and the cis people around them, and make sure that people know that trans people exist, that we belong, and that we deserve the same rights as everybody else.
And I was just checking, one of those options is transathlete.com has a June 25th at 7 p.m. Eastern has a training that you can attend. Can you tell us more about that?
Yeah, that's going to be a free webinar for folks to get more information about how to talk about trans athletes and how the Supreme Court decision that will probably come out by then. There are two cases right now at the Supreme Court, BPJ versus West Virginia and Hecox versus Little. Those are two cases in West Virginia and Idaho that will determine, sort of a future path of whether or not trans athletes are included in K through 12 and college athletics. And those decisions will probably come out before then. And we're going to talk about how they actually impact community members, youth sports, and the future of sports for trans people.
Awesome.
Did we do it, Kyle?
Yeah, I think we did. We did something like usual. No, Chris, I really appreciate you being on, and we will still have you on for a Gayest and Straightest, so you're not going anywhere quite yet.
Okay.
Yeah, but should we take a break?
Yeah, let's take a break.
Let's take a break.
This is the part where Mike and Kyle take a break.
So are we back?
We're back.
We're back.
We are going to do our Gayest and Straightest.
This time, we're going to do our Gayest and Straightest.
Yep.
But first, Chris Mosier, tell us where people can find more about you, what you're up to. Just tell us all the things.
Yes. So people can find me on every social media platform at the Chris Mosier and at transathlete.com. And also please find the co-authors of Fair Game, Ellie Rocher and Dr. Anna Baith, also two great follows.
Awesome. And get the book, Fair Game, Transathletes and the Future of Sports, if you want to dive deeper into this topic.
Yeah. Our website is gayishpodcast.com.
We are on social media at Gayish Podcast.
Our hotline, you can send us text messages or leave us voicemails, is 5855-GAYISH. That's 585-542-9474. Standard rates apply.
Our email is gayishpodcast@gmail.com.
Our physical mailing address is Post Office Box 19882, Seattle, Washington, 98109. Let's see. Buy our book. Buy their book, but then buy our book. Just go on a book shopping spree.
Yeah, it's Pride. You need some more gay books.
Yeah, exactly. And excited about the cruise. It's a good time to join the cruise.
Yep, like
It's
every week. Now's the best time.
Okay. But most importantly, we need your cues so we can A them. Per show tradition, every episode that's a multiple of 50, we do a Q&A episode, and our 500th episode is coming up in less than a month. So please send in your questions so that Kyle and I can answer them as part of our celebration extravaganza for the 500th episode. More details on that. Are we doing a live stream, Kyle? We're doing a live stream.
We usually do. I don't know that we talked about it.
We're going to do a live stream. It's going to be magical. So everybody be ready for that.
Send your questions to Gayish Podcast +500. I'm saying Derek is saying yes.
You're doing great. You're crushing it, Kyle.
Podcast, at gayishpodcast.com so that those get routed to Derek and we don't see them in advance.
gmail.com. Gayish Podcast +500 at gmail.com.
I thought that's okay. Yes, do it there. Gayest and Straightest?
Yeah, let's do our Gayest and Straightest.
Okay, I will go.
Okay.
My gayest is I went to my eye doctor and the front desk employee, who I did not know, wished me a happy Pride. Just kind of knew he was gay himself. So it was someone that was like, "Oh, got you, Pride, happy Pride," and I was like, "Oh, cool, happy Pride." So that's my gayest, is getting clocked right away. My straightest is I ran out of clean T-shirts of my good shirts, so I had to dig into the bad T-shirts, the T-shirts that you only wear when you're out of good T-shirts. Yeah. So I had to kind of go digging for things to wear.
Yeah.
What about you, Mike?
Let's see. The straightest thing about me this week was I went to my brother's graduation party, and there was like a after party, friends and family around. And
congrats, Murph.
Yeah. Congrats, Murph. But I shocked the hell out of a couple of lesbians because they thought I was straight. So I don't know what it was about what I was wearing or the things that were coming out of my mouth, but like one of them legit said like, you were not giving gay vibes at all. So, but then the gayest thing about me this week is at that same graduation party, Murph gave me a Sasquatch shirt. It's an outline of Sasquatch in rainbow, and it says Squatch at the bottom. I have a picture of both of us wearing them. I'll post that to social media or give it to Derek.
Chris, how about you? What are your straightest?
Oh, goodness. I think my straightest was earlier today. I went to a baseball game and I actually watched it. It's my father-in-law's 70th birthday. And so the whole family went out to a White Sox game, and I'm a Cubs fan, but I say that loosely. I don't actually watch them. But I actually watched some baseball. So that was a very straight coded thing that I did today.
Absolutely.
But that kind of leads into my gayest thing is I am so blessed that I get to do this so many times each year. Drive my Subaru to a WNBA game to sit in my season tickets. That is the gayest, the best. It's just the best.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yep. Can't go wrong with a Subaru.
Honestly.
Chris Mosier, thank you so much for being with us here today and talking with us about trans sports. We really appreciate you and your sharing your experience with us. it's been wonderful.
Thanks so much.
And I want to thank our super gap bridgers. Thank you to Matt H, Jesse Adam Y, Locomotive, Simon Sarachi, Kaylee Adams, Kit Oliver, Kobe Gordon, Squoggle, William Bryant, John Crowley, Stephen Porch, Yost Osel, Jonathan Montanius, Forrest Nail, Steve Douglas, Explosive Lasagna, Michael Covington, Thomas B, Dusty Sands, A Coleman, Chris Kachatorians, and Jerome York. Thank you for your support.
Thank you for your money. That's it. This has been Gayish from the Chris Kachatorian Studios. I'm Mike Johnson.
I'm Kyle Getz. Until next week, be butch, be fabulous, be you. See ya.
See you next week.
Bye.
Jesus Christ, Kyle.
You are occasionally freezing for me for like a couple seconds at a time. I don't know if that's me or you.
I'm sure it's me. I'm sure it's me. I'm at a hotel that I've never stayed at before, and it didn't give me, like, usually Marriott properties, you have the opportunity to like do the upgraded fancy bullshit version, and then I don't have to pay for it because I have a giant dick. And not as this one, even though it's a Marriott property. So I'm on regular old normal speed internet for dum-dums.
With the plebes, yep. I said that NDA stands for numerous dicks administered.
Oh,
yeah.
great.
This is fine. Yeah.
Sure. Preferably at the same time.